Okay, because we're under terrorist attack constantly by American communists, I thought it would be appropriate tonight, before we get into the rest of our program, to have a discussion about why they do what they do, the tactics they use, because it'll help us understand what's going on. We have a great show tonight. Tim Burchett's here, Sav Hernandez, Sean Spicer. All these things are going to be great. But first, we need to rewind for maybe some new viewers or a little reminder for everybody. I want to remind you that now and always, it was always this way. This isn't a modern phenomenon. There are two different divisions of communism. Now and always two different divisions. There are elite communist scum and street communist scum. They are very much separate. They work together, which we'll get to in a moment. They are separate and they believe in different things, all right? So the difference is this. The elite communist scum, these would be your judges, your senators, your politicians, your TV pundits, the elites, the business leaders. They don't actually believe in communism. You know that, right? They don't believe in equity or the climate change or Black Lives Matter, the gay crap. They don't believe in any of that stuff at all. None of it at all. They're just simply greedy, power-hungry people. That's all they are. And they recognize that embracing communism will help give them more and more power, because there are a lot of very, very dumb / mentally ill people out there who will embrace actual communism. We'll get to those people in a moment. Now, the elite communist scum, they're not just power-hungry, you see. They have a role to play in the communist revolution, the revolution that is ongoing now and forever. And their role is this. They give marching orders to the brain-dead street animals, to the street communist scum. They give them the targets they need to focus on. And after they focus on said targets, after the street animals focus on said targets, the elite communist scum, they run protection for the street communists. Legal protection. Have you ever wondered why it is that left-wingers across this country have been doing, honestly, they've been doing street terrorism since the 60s in this country. Nail bombs, there's always a protest, a riot, but not that many arrests. And none of it has ever been treated like January 6th was. Why is that the case? Is it hypocrisy? No, set that aside. That's child's way of thinking. It's not hypocrisy. The street communists protect them, and they understand that's part of their job. If you're a communist judge, lawyer, politician, you understand part of your job is to protect the street animals when they go do their animal things. So let's flip the coin here. The street communists. These are, sadly, they do believe. These are mostly the true believers. There's some paid-for ringleaders in there, but for the most part, the animals you see in the streets, they are true believers, and whatever vile little cause they happen to have. So when they're gluing their butts to the highway, they really believe that your SUV is destroying the planet. When they're burning down Foot Locker and assaulting police, they really believe that black people are still oppressed in America and they're fighting the revolution. You get it. They really genuinely believe. These people are almost always, and I'm actually not being mean here, they're almost always extremely low IQ people. You know, society's always going to have very, very, very dumb, gullible people, and those people get snatched up in the cult. They're almost always mentally ill in some way, suffered from abuse, drug addiction. They're really, really the dregs of society. But the dregs of society serve an invaluable purpose to the communist revolution, because when you're fighting a communist revolution to burn down a system, you are going to need people to break the eggs to make the omelet, if you will. You're going to need people to do horrible, barbaric things when you're trying to burn down a culture. And that's where the street animals come in. Now, that brings us to what's happening now. You see, the elite communists have been saying things like Chuck Schumer said here for a long time. They're still saying these things.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
Now, you've seen that clip before. We've played it for you before, but why do they talk like that? What does he mean by that? After all, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, they're on the Supreme Court. What could you do to them? You can't vote them out. They're on there for life. But you will reap the whirlwind, is how he said it. Why would he say something like that? Well, because Chuck Schumer understands everything I just told you, right down to the mental illness of the street animals. And Chuck Schumer understands that if he speaks like that, eventually one of his street animals will march forward. He will take those words as marching orders, and he will, well, do exactly what one of them tried to do. He heard those words. He got on a plane from California with a loaded gun and was caught outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house, ready to blow his head off, ready to make sure Brett Kavanaugh reaped that whirlwind, you see. And so today, what you're seeing, all this brought us to what we're seeing today with Teslas. Now, I could go down the list of everything you're seeing across the country between Tesla. The headquarters of the New Mexico Republican Party was just firebombed. So that firebombing, Teslas, they're carving swastikas into Teslas. They're stopping people on the roads, pulling guns on Teslas. They're doing the most despicable things in the world to Teslas. Elon Musk says he's getting 18,000 death threats a day.
There were quite a few death threats, I have to tell you. I was like, my security team said, well, it's actually gone down from yesterday to today. It went down from 18,000 to 17,000. So I'm like, well, maybe it's getting better, you know? But you can see like how crazy some of these people are. You know, look at the two sort of people that tried to assassinate President Trump. You know, I mean, I was, and one, you know, they both almost succeeded. So it's real. Like it's not like some imaginary thing.
So what happened? Well, this is something else the elite communists are very, very good at when it comes to their street communists. They're very, very good at getting their eyes fixated on a singular goal. Oftentimes, it's usually just a person, a singular person. What in the world would possess somebody? When there's cameras all over a Tesla, I should note, what would possess people, lots of them, I can't even count how many there have been, to just start randomly vandalizing Teslas? How could this many people be this sick, evil, and wrong? Well, the elite communists will grab those eyes of the street communists and they will aim them at a target, and they will tell their mentally ill communist street animals, look at that guy. See Elon Musk? That's your enemy. He's the source of all your problems. He's the one to attack. It keeps the street animals focused. No different than if my Ohio State Buckeyes happen to lose to Michigan, which would never happen, but if they happen to lose to Michigan, then in the weight room in the offseason, the Ohio State Buckeyes will play the film of that Michigan loss on a loop over and over and over again on the TVs in the weight room. Why? Fix your eyes on this. It keeps you focused. One more rep, we'll get them next year. And the exact same way, America's elite communists take the eyes of the street communists and they tell them, this is the guy, hurt him, attack him, this is the guy. And across the country, we have thousands, millions at this point in time of mentally ill, disgusting street animal communists. And they're not always just, low-end people. Some of these people are well-to-do, rich suburbanites. It's not socioeconomic. They will take their street animals, fix their eyes on a target. Right now it's Elon Musk, and say, hey, go burn down Tesla today. And the street animals, they take their marching orders dead serious. This isn't just fodder for television. They're dead serious about it. And this is our war. We are in the middle of a political war. We're not at the end. We're not in the beginning. We are in the middle of a political war, a war that did not end with the election of Donald Trump. If anything, it ramped up. Keep your eyes open out there. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I can't stop laughing at all the stupid chants. They just kill me every time. And it's always the stupid hey, hey, ho, ho stuff. It just murders me. Joining me now, the lady who was on the ground doing the reporting for all this, our friend Sav Hernandez, reporter for Turning Point USA. Okay, Savannah, you were on the ground New York City. You were on the ground Austin. Before we get to all the smelly dirtballs you were surrounded by, better food, Austin, New York City.
New York City.
Oh, come on. Why?
You get more variety over there, okay? You know, it's so funny, Jesse. I have been in news mode all day, so my brain did not even compute what you just asked me, but my answer is still New York City.
All right, respect it. Now, these protests, I just find it so fascinating how the communists can get their little street animals fixated on one person and convince them that that one person is the devil. Tell me what you saw. You were on the ground. I wasn't.
Yeah, so last weekend I was on the ground in Austin, Texas, and this weekend I was on the ground in New York. Now, really interesting thing about these protests, Jesse, is of course they're filled with rabid communists. That's nothing new. But as soon as the clock strikes noon or 2 p.m. or whenever their protest is supposed to end, they really do clear out at a record pace. Now, you know that I've been covering protests since 2020. And to be quite honest with you, this is something that I noticed and I kind of thought something of it, but I was like, I don't know, maybe it's all in my head. And then I started to see that other people were pointing this out as well. So it's really interesting to see the level of paid protester that we are now at, to where as soon as they're off the clock, they're leaving this area. But regarding what we saw in New York, we had people holding signs that said, "Save democracy, burn a Tesla." I went and I interviewed them and I was like, do you think that violence against Tesla is enough and firebombing Teslas is enough? And they were like, well, we condone anything that needs to be done, and maybe we need to do a little bit more, while they held up Luigi Mangione, posters and photos. So just to give, people an example of where these people's heads are at.
Okay, Savannah, you notice they cleared out. Obviously, you just pointed out that they cleared out at a specific time. And the question for me is always the percentages. Let's say there's 1,000 scumbags there. How many do you think are paid? Are they all paid? You're the one who spends so much time on the ground covering these people, because it sure seems like a lot of them are paid.
Yeah, so the way that a lot of these break down is, for example, in New York, you had 3 separate groups that all convened together to form this larger protest. And these various groups are all paid in various ways or supported by, various parts of the government. So it's very interesting to see how all of this flows together. But yes, they are paid in some ways. A lot of people are investigating right now exactly what those are. But we do know that, for example, George Soros has funded a lot of these NGOs that have contributed to these protests, to these groups. For example, ACT UP New York is one of the groups that was there. They're the ones that held the die-in, where they held up all the tombstones. And they were there to protest against AIDS, the stopping of AIDS medicine nationwide. I don't know, Jesse. It was such a weird event. All of these groups are so strange. And in Austin, that was a Tesla takedown protest group. That was different from the ACT UP New York group that was, again, dying in front of the Tesla showroom there. But yeah, Jesse, I just get exhausted with all of these people. It's ridiculous that they're spending their Saturdays going and doing this nonsense, but they do. And like I said, previously, I really didn't see them clear out as quickly as I have in 2025. Previously, they would kind of like hang out, kumbaya a little bit with their friends. Now they're like, oh, 12 p.m. on the dot. We got to go. Bye.
It's very, very odd. Okay, well, not all of them are just stupid chants and die-ins and whining about AIDS medication. There is a lot of violence going on in the country. Vandalism counts, property vandalism counts for sure, and there's been a lot of it. There have been people getting threatened on the road, guns pulled on them, swastikas, the works. This stuff does not appear to be being toned down, Savannah, and the Attorney General says she's all over it, but it appears to be ramping up.
You know, Jesse, I hate to have to say it, but what is the DOJ doing? I've been saying this in a lot of my interviews today, that it doesn't seem like the left wing respects the DOJ at all. And again, if we look at Merrick Garland's DOJ, okay, within days, within weeks, they had hundreds of January 6th protesters thrown in jail that were innocent. A large majority of them were innocent, mind you. Why is it that Merrick Garland's DOJ was able to come in, track everybody down, throw them in jail, but we have on camera all of these Tesla, and I will call them domestic terrorists, because if you're firebombing a Tesla showroom and you're using violence and intimidation and you're tracking people down on the road, forcing them to stop their vehicle so you can punch them in the face, that just happened to a 60-year-old woman, that in itself, by definition, is domestic terrorism. So I don't know if the DOJ is really sending a strong enough message, because this is still happening every single day. Have we even gotten any answers as well regarding the coordinated swatting efforts aimed at conservatives? I don't know if we had. So I don't know what the DOJ is doing. And you know, Jesse, another thing that I've been kind of pointing out as well is independent journalists have done a lot of work over the last decade, straight up getting criminals on camera, admitting to crimes, investigating these organizations, investigating top federal officials who have been treasonous towards the United States of America. We've done the work. Where are the arrests?
Yeah, where are the arrests indeed? It's a very good question to ask, one I've started asking myself. I'm glad you're putting it out there. Shifting gears to another story, courtesy of you. Here you were in New York City with a tax company giving money to illegals. Here it is.
We do this stuff like this, like at all the shelters and stuff. But like our company, this is why we try to help people by, providing them with refunds,
This is Sav Hernandez in front of the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City. Now, we wanted to come check in on the migrant crisis, and as we were walking around, we saw a Jackson Hewitt table out here with an employee who was handing out this flyer. Now, what this flyer says is, working or not, file your taxes and we can get the maximum refund for your family. And the paper says that if you have one child, you can get over $7,000 in a refund, and if you have up to 3 children, you can get over $14,000.
Well, I imagine that's pretty big business for people from Latin America. What did you find out?
Yeah, Jesse, I went to go check out the Roosevelt Hotel in New York City because the migrant crisis is still alive and well over there, and they are still opening new migrant shelters in that sanctuary city because, again, nobody respects the DOJ or federal law in this country. And as I was walking around outside of this very, very popular migrant hotel where, again, illegal immigrants are being housed, I saw this Jackson Hewitt employee tabling, and he was handing out these flyers. He actually ended up taking away the flyer from me when he found out I was a journalist, which is what made me suspicious. I didn't really pay attention to him at all. But as soon as I saw this flyer, what they were doing was coaching illegal immigrants on how they could get the maximum tax refund after claiming their children. And my immediate question was, how is it that illegal immigrants who just got to this country have already been given free luxury hotels, food, medical care, free Metro cards so they can drive around New York City or even fly to California if they want to? How is it that they're now getting tax refunds? That's a very interesting thing that's going on here. So that's what I accidentally stumbled upon outside of Roosevelt Hotel. And again, I have my eye focused on New York because they also just opened another migrant shelter in the Bronx for 2,200 single migrant men. So this is just another example of how the illegal immigration crisis is still ongoing and how we, the people, are being defrauded out of our money, and it's being given to illegal immigrants in yet another way.
Yeah. At least get them to Austin so they can get a better meal. Sav, thank you as always. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Jesse.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.